Hello and welcome back to Scrump Builds. Today we are doing our Cancer house and I am very excited about this build. I think it might be my favorite home that I've ever built to date. So I'm super excited to get into it. The inspiration for the Cancer home was Dutch row houses. The astrology book, the astrology book that I use said that one of the cities for Cancers was Amsterdam and one of the countries was Holland, and of course Cancer is a water sign, so I thought a Dutch row house would be perfect for this build. And as we can see, it is going to be 3 stories. This is the second story right here. I wanted an open airy vibe for this upper deck situation. And then the third story, it's going to be where the bedrooms are. The second floor is the kitchen. And I want it to be small and quaint and feel homey, familiar. I don't know why I said familiar. Like, I really can't talk today. Familiar. But anyway, the book that I use also said that the statement for Cancer was I feel. So I really wanted to lean into this cozy, homey, nostalgic vibe. So right now we're doing couch swatches and I wanted the couch to feel very lived in. So honestly, that couch in the middle was really the only option. I knew that I wanted this to be the couch from the beginning. And then we have this vintage love seat that I think is perfect. In addition to it feeling homey and nostalgic, I wanted it to feel sort of eclectic and natural. I wanted it to feel like somebody who maybe couldn't afford to get sets of furniture was going and shopping for things as they could afford them. So they have mismatched pieces that all came together over time to build the aesthetic of this home. And you can see I second guessed my gut here and I switched to a more polished couch. And the main reason for that is that I couldn't find a rug that really fit the vibe of the living room that I was going for. And this other couch has way more color swatches available, so I thought it would be easier to fit in. But honestly, the living room was looking a little too modern and wasn't going for the soft colors that I wanted to be present in this room. So I went back to my original choice for this couch. I just love how you can see that somebody's been sitting in this couch, that it's been loved for years. It's one of my favorite things about it. So since I couldn't find a rug that I wanted, I decided to layer 2 rugs on top of each other to give myself a custom rug, and I think it fits perfectly. So we now are looking for our wood choices for the floor, and I think the one we end up with is perfect because it's a little worn down, but it still looks, it unifies the room. And then we go with this tall bookshelf that kind of looks like, what is it called? It's not in unit, in shelf, in something shelving. It kind of looks like that, which I like, but it's not. I think that would have been too modern if I went for something like that. So we have these 3 bookshelves lining the walls, and then we're gonna go ahead and figure out what we want in this bathroom. I knew that I wanted an oval mirror. Something about an oval mirror really screams antique and vintage to me. And then I always need tile in a bathroom, so we have tile floors and tile walls while still keeping that wood paneling in this room, which I think I'd want in every room because it feels like when the people who built this house built it or when they designed it, they would have had the same wood paneling throughout the entire home. And now we are rearranging some things to make sure we have the proper spacing for the front door, the desk, the bookshelves, everything that needs to be in here, in addition to this front sort of deck situation that we have going on. And when I was looking at inspiration photos for this house, one of the things that stood out to me were the pillars that were on the homes. So I knew that I wanted pillars for the home, and that's what we're putting here, and it connects to the upper deck situation that we have on the second floor. Additionally, I knew that I wanted to have a roof not only on the top of the house but on top of that second floor, and a friend of mine said she really liked that idea because it looks like this family added on a second portion, or a third portion rather, to the house once they had money to expand, and I love that idea. Something else I saw in my inspiration was open shelving. Whenever I looked up a Dutch kitchen, I always saw open shelving as opposed to closed off cabinetry. So I knew that that was something that I wanted to incorporate into this kitchen. So we're gonna have open shelving on the walls for the upper cabinet area and then also for the lower cabinet area. And I think it adds a specific charm to this kitchen, which really made me fall in love with it. I also saw a lot of islands in Dutch kitchens when I was looking them up. So that's what we've got going for us here. And then making sure we add our railings to our steps and our door. I knew that I wanted wallpaper in each of the rooms, but I didn't want the wallpaper to be the same. You can see I'm adding in the roof I was talking about here. So the wallpaper in the kitchen is a little bit different. And then we need to figure out, before we can figure out what the windows look like, we need to decide on the exterior paint. And I knew I wanted some sort of stucco, but this one's a little too red. I need it to be a little more contrasted to the color of the roof. So we're going with this pale tan sort of color for the exterior stucco. And then we're going to move back to the window design. And if you are not new here, then you know I hate window design, but this house was actually such a joy to work on because since I was going for this eclectic, older style, I knew that the window design didn't matter as much because looking at all of the inspiration pics, a lot of times the windows were a little more not haphazard, but they weren't so sterile and symmetrical. So that really lightened the load for me on window design, and I could just do what felt right for the interior of the house and not have to worry about the exterior of the house. So that's what we're doing here, and even though I was more concerned with the interior of the house, I think it gives the exterior a really charming, unique look to it. So we're finishing off the window design on the first floor, and then as I was working on the top floor, I realized I would not have enough space to make this a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. So that means we need to make the first floor bathroom a full bath. So that's what I'm doing right now, is rearranging it so that we can incorporate the tub into this first floor bathroom. I don't know why I chose blue bath mats. Actually, now that I say it, it's probably because of the blue tile. So anyway, that's what we're doing here, is making the bath mats cohesive throughout this room. And now I just had to eliminate the platforms. Platforms always give me a hard time, and I didn't want a step on the inside of the house, so we had to eliminate that. And now onto the beds. I wasn't sure how I was gonna fit the beds into these really tiny rooms, but somehow I made it work. Period. And I think the second bedroom is gonna be a kid's bedroom, maybe for like a favorite grandchild or the only grandchild for when they come to visit this house, because this really does feel like a grandparent's home. At least that's what I was going for, and I think I achieved it. So figuring out what kind of rug and design I want in this room. I wasn't loving the green plaid situation that we had, so we switched over to this white plaid, which is a little cleaner but still feels vintage because of the pattern on the comforter. And then we're gonna go ahead and figure out our wallpaper. I know I want a different wallpaper in each room for really the entirety of the house, except for the public spaces like the hallways. So we're figuring that out for this child's bedroom. I think that light wood was a little too modern and not so cohesive with the rest of the house, so we went with this darker wood for the bed, and then these vintagey rugs for both rooms. So we have wall sconces, and then we're probably going to put a chandelier on the first floor. I say probably like I don't already know. We are going to put a chandelier on the first floor, and then of course we have this rocking chair and the cute little teddy bear chair for the bedrooms. So something else I needed to figure out was storage, because these rooms are so small. And we're putting the dresser at the foot of the bed right now, but honestly I didn't love it. It feels like sort of a modern place to put it, and also it looked too clunky and like it took up too much space. So we're moving the rocking chair to the foot of the bed, which I think is fun, and then putting the dresser in the corner of the room. For the rocking chair, I want it to be like a seating area, and then also have a little lighting so somebody could read a book or do a little embroidery or something. So we have this little accent table with a lamp, and then a toy chest for the kids' room, which I think looks vintage and also very sweet. And then avoiding overhead lighting, so we have this standing lamp, and then forgot to put windows in the bathroom, so we're doing that down here. And moving on to clutter. So hopefully somebody is going to embroider in this house. I put a little embroidery on the wall here, and this is one of my favorite parts of the house, because my grandparents have always had family photos lining the wall up the steps to their second floor, and so that's what I was going for here, because it feels like something that older homes have, that a grandparent's house might have, and I want it to feel, again, as natural and lived in as possible. So Not only did I choose to do that with the design of the walls, but also specifically with the photos and decor pieces that I chose. So here is the chandelier that I spoiled already that was gonna come into this living room, and another standing lamp so that we can get rid of all the disc lights in the home. And we're adding another window. I like how the windows just kind of come in as they go. Like I said, did not plan them out in the beginning. So now we're moving on to the kitchen. I wanted as much clutter as possible in this room, and I wanted the clutter to be things that I feel would be characteristic of the home. So like the jar of olives and the pickled vegetables, dishes, things that have utility, because I feel like in a home like this, people wouldn't be buying things just to make the kitchen look cute. It would be a culmination of things that were bought because they needed to be used. And I really love these pitchers that are holding the utensils because it feels natural. Like if you already have a pitcher, why would you go out of your way to buy a jar to hold utensils? So that's the kind of thing that I wanted to incorporate in this room. We did have these two little picture frames, which I think are cute, and they're on the top shelf. I also, again, wanted to think about utility, so what would be on a reachable first shelf versus a second shelf that might be harder to reach. And now we're gonna have a small little seating area with just 2 chairs. I think the runner on the table is so cute and brings in the dark wood of the islands and countertops. And then when I chose these chairs, I was thinking of the Friends living room and how Monica always had like an eclectic set of dining chairs. It was never from the same set, and that's what I was going for here, because again, sets are expensive, so I'd like to think that the owners of this house bought chairs as they could and made them fit in the room as best they could, and I think it looks super cute and charming. So now bringing the wall sconces outside, because again, no overhead lighting, but we want to make sure the residents of our house can see. And then doing the same thing for our second floor bedrooms. I think this little piece of clutter is cute, and I'd like to think that this sort of cliffside in the photo in the primary bedroom is a photo from where this house is located. A little bit more window design. I'm just super excited about this house. I think that it feels the most realistic of any of the houses that I've built, either on this channel or off the channel. And I think it's just simple. It gets to the point. It's not a lot of fluff, but it tells a story, and I love that. So we're removing the windows here in this hallway because it just didn't work with the lighting situation, which I think is fine. But the kitchen looks a little dark, so we're adding in these candles for a little light and also ambiance, and then figuring out clutter for our desk. We have these little potion bottles, books, a journal. I think it all looks super cute and not too excessive. And we have a little set of puzzles, and then every grandparent's house needs to have a plant, so that's what we put there. And then for another, I keep saying like my favorite part of this house, but this is also one of my favorite parts of this house, is the water feature. This is the first time I've done a water feature like this, but Dutch row houses are often on like a canal or river or some sort of body of water, and so that's what we're doing here, and I think it looks so pretty and so nice. But because this was my first time, it took a little trial and error figuring out how to make the edges cohesive. Look at that. So I did not want the house to sink into the water, but we figured it out, and we have this nice little walkway across the canal so that people can actually enter the house from the street, because obviously that's a requirement. So cleaning up the edges here again because the walkway sort of messed them up a little bit. And now we're moving on to exterior design and plantage. What is that word? Foliage? Flora? I don't know, but it's certainly not plantage. Anyway, we're moving these up because I want to cover the border of this like brown dirt area and then the grass. So we're shifting those up to cover up that seam, and then we're going to add a little height with this second set of plants. Not grass, like what is that? I don't know, but it looks good. And then we're keeping the eclectic vibe on the outside with these 2 different kind of trees and making sure that they have some foliage around them. And then these look like cypress trees. I'm trying to see, it just says shrubbery, so I don't know. But and you know what? I don't even know what a cypress looks like, so we're gonna ignore that, but it might look like that, who knows. And then this nice tile little walkway in the background, I didn't want it to be too clean cut, so I like the curviness and how it has the natural edges. But we're covering up seams today, and we're covering up the seams of this walkway. I had to zoom in a little bit because for whatever reason, Sims, EA, please hear me. I want the plants to have the same function as the windows and the dining room tables, how when you click one, another one automatically appears, because this was so frustrating and my computer's too slow for me to adequately use the shift feature to like do that same mechanic. Either way, the toolbar at the bottom kept flashing, so we zoomed in a little bit. We added some lavender bushes. We're gonna have some wildflowers in here as well, and I think it just looks super cute and natural, and also is a nice little decoration to the house. We're gonna go ahead, these are the wildflowers that I was talking about, filling in the little cracks and gaps that we have going on here. And then in addition to the wildflowers, we're gonna pull out some sunflowers. I think sunflowers are always facing the sun, so technically these should all be facing the same direction, but suspension of disbelief. I wanted them to face the walkway, so that's what they're doing. And then we are gonna move on to one last feature of the home, one that I am particularly excited for because Cancer is, like we know, a water sign, so we're adding in a pond. And if you do download this house in the gallery, it looks so crazy when they get to the basement level because you can see the depth of the water features, and this pond is so unrealistically and unnecessarily deep, but I just had to make sure that the edges were smooth because that mattered to me. But anyway, I really appreciate you all watching. This is about to wrap up as we cover up the seams on the edge of this pond, and I hope you enjoyed this build as much as I did. So thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in our next video.